My name is Eitan. This is joint work with Ethan Wang, who you met before. And what we ask in this paper is, what is the relationship between parties' ideology and their propensity to use clientelistic tactics, right? So, what do I mean when I'm talking about ideology? We've limited our analysis to economic ideology. So by right-wing economic ideology, I mean parties just like, you can think for example about the Republican Party in the US, who support less intervention in the market, less redistribution perhaps, and so on. Left-wing parties will be the opposite, parties that support redistribution and think that the government should be more involved in the market. Now, the dependent variable here is clientelism, and we think we know what clientelism is. Just to clarify, when we talk in this paper about clientelism, this is a concept where a party promises to deliver some sort of excludable good to a given voter or a group of voters, conditional on voting for that party, right? As opposed to programmatic policies where you promise something to everybody, right? So generally, the literature has told us, in a very unsystematic way perhaps, with a limited geographic span, that right-wing parties, economically, are more likely to be clientelistic. In this paper we ask why, and generally we find that that's not the case. What happens is that it depends what type of clientelism we're looking at, right? So on the one hand, we can think about individual targeted clientelism, right? This is the kind of clientelism where a party activist perhaps goes to a village, in the stylized fact, right? A party activist goes to a village and promises a specific voter a bag of rice perhaps, a job, better health care treatment and so on. Very targeted, very specific type of clientelism, relationship between the party and the voter. On the other hand, there's what we call club clientelism. And here we're talking about something pretty close, almost what we think about when we're talking about policies, but still this is targeted toward a specific economic interest, political interest, perhaps a government contract, perhaps a favorable regulatory environment, and so on. What we find in this analysis is that everybody does the first. All parties, regardless of their ideology, use this individual targeted clientelism. You can think about the poor, the less organized, they are easy to buy and attract using this tactic. On the other hand, there is a relationship, a significant relationship, controlling for a battery of other factors, between right-wing ideology and club clientelism, right? This broader economic favorable economic conditions. Why is that? Why do we find this relationship with right-wing ideology and club clientelism? Our analysis shows that what really is going on behind the scenes is this relationship between business and parties, right? Parties that support less regulation of the market find a very easy crowd among these business groups. These business groups provide a large group of voters that they're able to mobilize, and therefore our analysis shows that a lot of the action is actually going on based on this party-business association. However, in terms of country-level factors, right, it is more difficult to use this relationship between right-wing ideology, between parties and businesses, when the economic environment is more open, more transparent, more competitive perhaps, and less in the hands of the ruling party. So, our design, briefly, what we've done is we've used a hierarchical model that incorporates data and information both at the country and at the party level. And we have data on many countries, more than 500 parties. And this is just to repeat the main results, right? So when it comes to club clientelism, the ability of parties to deliver broad goods like contracts and favorable economic conditions to specific interests, there is a relationship as we move on the spectrum from left to right. There's a significant relationship between their ideology and club clientelism. And I'm not sure you see the country names here, but as we become less transparent As the economic environment becomes less transparent, perhaps more corrupt, what we see is an increased effect of the relationship between business and parties on the ability to deliver clientelistic goods. To conclude, our tentative, preliminary conclusion here would be, well, if the environment is not transparent, perhaps it would be a good idea to try to open this environment, make it more transparent, and therefore create less demand from business association for this type of preferable policies, and of course, reduce the ability of parties to use that kind of tactic. Thank you.